normally dip into a little NFL draft talk in the bye week. However, this season it might just be a tad bit different. But our first thoughts on the 2025 NFL draft with Ian Valentino. Everybody buckle up. Locked On Browns starts now.
You are Locked On Browns, your daily Cleveland Browns podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends, your daily delivery of all things dog pound. LGB on the LOB, the Locked On Browns podcast, brought to the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Your host, Jeff Lloyd, and we appreciate all of you who make Locked On Browns your first listen every single day. The everyday crowd, we appreciate you all for sticking through what is a tough season. If you're new here, well, become an everydayer. Subscribe to Locked On Browns YouTube channel. Show is always available. It is always free wherever you get your podcasts. Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use the code all lowercase LockedOnNFL to win $50 instantly when you play $5. We are joined today by Ian Valentino, part of the 33rd team, also the A to Z Sports NFL. We are going to talk some NFL draft. It is the bye week. Maybe for some of you that have been so loyal here, maybe this will be something. We'll give you a little hope, a little excitement here, as we're going to turn our eyes a little early till April 2025, but we are going to do so now. Ian, first off, appreciate you, taking the time here and everything. The 2025 class, where are we at? Granted, early November, leaning on mid-November. Where are we at here?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a little bit similar to last year's, where you want to have a top 100 pick. I think it's shaping up a lot like 2024, where between NIL, between all the transfers that we've seen, it's just been not a conducive environment to building these deep drafts. And some of that's coming off of the COVID classes, where you had players in their 7th, 8th seasons in college. It was just very unique. We're now getting past that now. Almost that entire generation of guys has kind of been flushed out. So it's a top-heavy class, really good for edge rushers, really good for defensive tackles. So if you're a team with defensive needs, it's looking pretty good. Even at cornerback, I like what we see there. Offensively, not a lot of depth. Running back, tremendous. You're going to get really good players from the first round, the obvious guy, Ash and G&T, through day 3. I mean, I did a 7-round mock. I got to the end of the draft, and I'm like, wow, I actually could see that guy being a starter, or even like Chuba Hubbard, who today just cashed in with like a $35 million contract. Guys that compare to that. So solid players in the NFL. Wide receiver dies a little bit early. Quarterback is weird. Quarterback doesn't have maybe the Caleb Williams, the Jaden Daniels, maybe, right? That's what people think, maybe. So right now, but there's a couple top guys, and then there's guys who are clear projects. They've got a lot of talent. You like what you see there, but you better slow cook them, because we're seeing it across the NFL. Sam Darnold at 27 breaking out. You better have a plan to be able to say, we're going to give you runway, or we're going to have a veteran there. And I think, I'm going to say I think, but it's more of a hope that the NFL is going to look at this and see what's happening around the league over the last couple of years to say, even if we take these guys highly, we're going to have a nice plan for them and not put them in the pressure cooker right away.
Yeah, and since you brought it up, I think it's honestly, a really good place to go, with a conversation. And I would have to think that part of this problem also with the quarterbacks, it is, everybody wants to put it on the NFL level. And look, in some cases, if you take a guy, you think he needs a little time, and look, we're going through the Anthony Richardson situation right now. What did everybody say at the time? Here is an absolute just gem of a guy. Hasn't really played, and how do you handle it? Well, Colts put him out there. First couple of tastes were successful. Then the injuries. And let's be honest, he didn't get better not playing last year. But this also has to be put on colleges as well. We're not, because normally you'd look down. You're going to evaluate 3 years of film. All right, where was this kid as a sophomore? Okay, now let's go to the junior year. Those problems we had as a sophomore, did some of those things improve? Then senior year, did he just have the ability to take over his team, take over a conference? We're not getting that, because every time, and I got to be honest, I love college football, but it is a real difficult product to watch right now because you go from game to game and go, and I got to be honest, when we say a guy played at Tennessee last year and now plays at Georgia, look, I'm all for these kids getting everything they do, but it seems like there's got to be something to it. But you have to think at the collegiate level where these guys may be on 4 campuses in 5 years, 3 campuses in 5 years. It's not helping them either at the collegiate level.
Yeah, absolutely right. And I mean, even, like Texas, you've got Arch Manning there. So it's like, what's that done to Quinn Ewers, and what's the pressure? And it's all just this environment that is, it's very, what have you done for me lately? It's very, not conducive to program growth. And that's gone down to quarterbacks. It's gone down to coaching staffs. It's a level of get on the field, do what you can, and you better work on your own time in the off season with your own private coaches, because they don't have the time. You don't have the time anymore. It's like the NFL. We don't have the allocated time to get you with our coaches to actually fix what's not working. And so you're seeing a lot of stagnation. You're not seeing growth, like you said. Year 1 to year 4 or 5. What's the Bill Parcells thing he wants? He wants 3 years of a starter. He wants to see you winning. He wants to see all of these different things. Those metrics have been long gone. I mean, it's kind of started, I don't know, maybe like 10 years ago, where you started to see guys with less and less experience. And of course, you're going to get to the NFL at the highest level. You're no longer the best athlete on the field. Or if you are the best athlete on the field, you're only relying on that. And it's just the margin for error is just, it's not there. So it's a tough environment. It is. I mean, I love college football, but it's weird. It's in a strange place right now. And I do think that quarterbacks and offensive linemen specifically suffering more than anyone else.
Yeah, and look, look, it's not a knock on the kids. These kids deserve everything they're gonna get, but it's just something that the NCAA and and players maybe. And look, it's something new, and until you're into it and you're invested into it, maybe these kids right now at the time don't realize that maybe this is what's best for them long term. But at the same respect, though, you can't tell a 19, 20-year-old kid, if I'm in college for 4 years, I have a chance to bankroll $2 million, perhaps. And God, whatever happens, if I walk out with my degree, maybe my pro career doesn't go anywhere, but at least I'm starting off on some sound financial footing. Another running back class. Let's not just go too deep here, but look, it's a fascinating group, and you're seeing kids every week. Down Tennessee is another great running back. Obviously the 2 from Ohio State. We're going to get to one of them a little bit later here today. And I think it's also maybe teams starting to show maybe a little more of an onus of, hey, within all this spread and this, that, and the other thing, it doesn't really necessarily hurt to run the ball every now and then.
Yeah, I think that's where we've got to get back to. You need to have some bigger backs who can handle themselves, 200 plus pounds, 210, 220 pounds. Guys who can handle the rock 10, 15, 20 times a game. It's the way defenses are playing. We've talked a lot. I know it's been, discussed probably a lot over the last year or so. This cover 2 defense, it's nothing new. But the NFL has to adjust. Quarterbacks are struggling. You have struggling quarterbacks as far as who's breaking out. You have Patrick Mahomes putting up pretty pedestrian numbers, and it's just because of the defensive schemes that are happening. These are the ebbs and flows in the NFL. If you look generationally, this is what's happened every single decade. Things are going to ebb, they're going to flow. We're now going back into a time where you have to prioritize the trenches. You have to prioritize getting playmakers at every position. The running back position is going to come back. It's going to be more important than ever to get multifaceted backs. Look at Derrick Henry, what he's doing. You might not find a Derrick Henry, but you better find someone who can do things that Derrick Henry can do at a very unique size. If you don't, you're going to be stuck. Look at what the Browns have been dealing with the last couple of years without Nick Chubb. If you don't have a guy that can, go above and beyond, the whole unit's just going to fail at that level. So this is a great chance for teams to even revamp their entire running back room if they need to.
And I think it's becoming also more, the onus on, look, it's going to be a running back by committee. It's because if you have a guy like Nick Chubb and you lose him, how do you overcome that? But B, like you said, 10, 12, 15 touches, and you incorporate that in with the rest of your offense and playmakers should, obviously dial up for a nice recipe. Ian Valentino is here. We're going to continue talking the NFL draft for the class of 2025. Quarterbacks, let's chat about it a little bit. Stick around, everybody. Hey, Browns fans, remember our great partner, Ultimate Pro Football GM? Well, they are back and they have added an amazing new game mode I need to tell you all about. The game that has you step into the shoes of a football franchise GM and lead it to glory now has a new head coach career mode as well. So, on top of getting to build your own dynasty by drafting players, signing free agents, and hiring coaching staff, now you also get to call offensive plays during games as well. Additionally, you'll dig the new tools you can work with, such as individual training camps and upgraded negotiation system. So this fun and realistic game just got a lot better. If you already have it installed, be sure to do an update so you can try out the new mode. If you do not have it yet, download it right now. It's a must for all the football fans. I love it, and I know you will too. And you Browns fans who say you can do it better, here is your opportunity. Ultimate Pro Football GM is completely free, has no ads, and 100% playable offline. Play on the go as you want and when you want to. And here is a special offer for Locked On fans. Use the promo code LOCKEDONNFL, all caps, inside the game store to receive a free boost to your franchise. Make sure to get it, as this perk will jumpstart your play and give you the advantage you'll want in creating a dynasty. To download the game, just visit ultimate-gm.com, ultimategm.com, or look it up on the app stores. Ultimate Pro Football GM. Start your dynasty today. Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You must pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It is guaranteed. Do you think Justin Jefferson will get more than 83.5 yards next week? Lamar Jackson will pass for more than 1.5 TDs? Cook up hot takes with your friends and win real money this football season when you and your crew run your game on Prize Picks. I've told you guys in the past, primetime games, Thursday night, Sunday night, Monday night. Look, there's nothing else going on. So why not put together a lineup? You're already hooked into the game. It just gives you a little bit more incentive to hopefully root for a great primetime affair. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game. Locked On Browns continues. I am your host, Jeff Lloyd. We are joined by A to Z Sports NFL and the 33rd teams, Mr. Ian Valentino, talking about the 2025 NFL draft class. Certainly, there will be a lot of talk and a lot of connection between the Cleveland Browns and quarterbacks in this class. As you said, we're not sure what this class is yet. So ideally, where the Browns sit currently at 5, it depends on what your flavor is here. You may think 5 is too low. But I guess the chatter starts with the 2025 QB class. Shedeur Sanders, Cam Ward. With Shedeur, there already kind of seems to be that maybe there was a warning label put out by his father, / head coach, whenever you want to refer to him as, a little while back, as far as what destination, and he may have his hand in on where he thinks is ideal for his son to go. But the 2 players themselves, Shedeur Sanders, Cam Ward, and the rest of this class, Ian.
Yeah, so I start there because I look at those guys and I say, all right, where I start is number 1, do you have the physical traits? Do you have the traits to be really good? Do you have the developmental curve that we talked about? Have you shown throughout your college career that there is tangible improvement across the board, especially mentally in your processing? Do you have the ability to make every throw? Okay, those things are fairly straightforward. I think they're things that we can be pretty objective about. Both those guys passed that with flashing colors. And I think projecting them forward now is what separates both of them. Is you have plus traits, especially with Cam Ward. And now you've seen him in a couple different systems. You've seen him change his style of play, which I really like. There's still some concerns there for me as far as he's got a little bit of that Deshaun Watson in him where, he's not going to necessarily pull the trigger as soon as he sees something come open. He's going to look to extend plays a little bit. That's still something part of his game that I want to see improve, and that hopefully he will, because if he can, that's a huge piece of the puzzle. We've seen it with Justin Fields and guys like that come into the league, even Caleb Williams. You got to rein in the playmaker a little bit, and I think that he's got to do that. But everything else looks pretty good outside of that 5% gunslinger that's a little reckless. You want some of it, right? But there's a little bit of a balance. I'd like to see him get a little bit less reckless with the ball too. So he's kind of more in that discussion for me where it's like, okay, is he really a top 5 pick? Is he a good fit for the Browns? I have my questions there. Is he a good fit for the Browns? Whereas Shador, I look at him and I say, oh, he's a great fit for the Browns. He is extremely smart. He has had year by year improvement every single year.
And it was lower level to upper level, which is really impressive because this is what we're trying to talk about with these kids when we don't get to see them in the same system for 3 years. But go ahead.
Exactly. And even beyond that, he's done it with multiple offensive coordinators, had a different offensive coordinator every single year. So we can talk a lot about, is the kid cocky? Is his dad an issue? These things, I'm not discrediting that stuff. But what I can tell you on the field is the kid has gotten much better every single year. And that tells me that he's the person that you need. That's the type of guy that's going to come in and work his butt off and continue to get better. So he doesn't have the A+ traits. He doesn't have Cam Ward's traits. He's a good athlete. He's got a good arm. He doesn't have a great arm. He doesn't have a great athletic body. He's not a big filled out guy, but he's got what he needs. So for me, it's Sanders and then Ward, and then we take a big step down. Basically, everyone else is going to be very situationally based as to whether they should go in the first round.
Yeah, now, just a couple of things for me on Shador. First things first. Oh, is he cocky? Is he kind of borderline arrogant? He's Deion Sanders' son. I mean, none of this should really surprise. The thing is certainly going to be, and this is the question that everybody's going to have, is when you walk into an NFL locker room, are you going to check it at the door? Because you are the quarterback. Look, if you were a corner and you were Deion, yeah, you better come in cocky, guns a-blazing, because as a quarterback, it's just not going to work. And trust me, they're not going to care what kind of watch you have on your wrist. But there was the one, and I don't know if it was week 1 or week 2, and he kind of rolled up into the pocket. So now all the pressure's behind him. And so he doesn't know it's there. And he literally just holds on it. It was only like a 10, 11-yard pass, but it was held it just long enough. I believe it was the back trying to beat the underneath coverage. And it's just really impressive because normally a guy's going to run away with that ball because he sees open grass in front of him. But that's a little thing, and it's extremely, extremely impressive. I think I believe 6-2 right now where Colorado's sitting. Now, if this team can get to 8-9 wins, you got to look at what they did last year, look at what they did this year. Also, the other thing is he is playing with an uber talented. There is a guy who most likely he plays with who conceivably should be the number 1 pick in this draft because his ability is that great at 2 positions. So you get to see what it's like for a guy like Shador to play with a legit NFL talent. And it's obviously something that clicks and works for the two of them.
Yeah, it's really fun. It's been special. I know people have been, kind of hating that experience or maybe not enjoying it. I hope that people watch Colorado every single week.
That is the one game I try to find every weekend where I can sit down and watch.
It is the most fun experience, whether you like the product or not, because you have 2 amazing players. And Travis Hunter is insane. I mean, what he's doing this year is even more impressive than last year. And he is it's weird. It's like I probably wouldn't grade him as the number 1 overall receiver in the class. I probably wouldn't grade him as the number 1 overall corner in the class, but there's no doubt he's the best football player in the class. And so he is phenomenal, right? Like if you take him 1, you take him 2, if the Browns end up with him at 5, you can't argue it. There's not a single team in the league that I would sit there and say, yeah, you shouldn't take him, because it's just, there's no argument to be made. He is a rare experience. It's really been special. And if you haven't watched them this year, yeah, I mean, it's, I'm not saying Deion should be a head coach in the NFL, but it's been a very impressive recovery for that program to go where they were this time a year ago. And everyone was dogpiling on everything they were doing.
No doubt.
And it all collapsed. And I'm not saying it wasn't justified, but look at what it was then to now. And it's like, this is something that you have to be able to do in the NFL. The Browns have learned that as much as any other franchise ever. Expectations sometimes cave in on you and it just doesn't work out. Can you bounce back the next year, or are you going to succumb to it and just fail? That program, for multiple reasons, it's not just, these individuals, but it's headed by Shador and Travis Hunter, and it just speaks a lot to their ability.
Now, and obviously another Deion, twist here. Look, we've only seen this one time in the NFL. I mean, Champ Bailey kind of moonlighted, but for those of you who are younger, there was a year where Deion Sanders for the Dallas Cowboys pretty much played primarily on both sides of the ball. had almost 800 yards receiving. Now, this is the NFL. Like, Deion was good and was one of the greatest athletes that's ever existed. But to say somebody could do that both on the pro level, I don't know if that's necessarily the path for Hunter, but I got to be honest. If you're good and you see his abilities, you're going to find a way to make him work on both sides of the ball. And good on Hunter, though, taking all the things and instincts he's learned over the years from both positions and able to improve himself at both positions from what he can do on offense and what he can do on defense. He can think like a receiver. He can think like a corner. So therefore, he can outthink you because he can look at every scenario from both sides. An amazing young talent. And look, I'm sure there's going to find some way that they're going to kind of pick him apart, this, that, and the other thing. Let's just enjoy it for what it is. It is special. And Emory Hunt, great friend of everybody who does this, says, no, don't give him the Heisman. Give him 2, because he's doing it on both sides of the ball. Ian has released a 7-round mock. We're going to get some Browns thoughts here. Some, from the first, look, like you said, top 100. You guys know me. It's always about the top 100. Browns currently with 4 top 100 selections. We'll take Ian's thoughts on those picks in segment 3. Everybody, go ahead, stick around. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Locked On Browns continues. Your host, Jeff Lloyd. We are joined by Ian Valentino. We appreciate everybody that makes Locked On Browns your first listen every single day. Become an everyday or join the everyday crowd. Subscribe to Locked On Browns YouTube channel. The show is always available. It is always free wherever you get your podcasts. Ian has done a full 7-round mock, so we are going to break down his selection in the top 100 for the Cleveland Browns. And I like where you're at with at least the spot you went with his first selection. As we know, the Zadarius Smith era is already over. Isaiah McGuire is going to get a really, really nice 8-week stretch here to prove Alex Wright in this mix as well. But the Browns do not have to make a decision on either player this offseason. So go ahead, get younger, get another guy in here, and that will help with the decisions you have to make on Wright and McGuire. Also, hopefully you are grooming at least one more guy, because look, you need 4 minimum in the edge room, good ones, to succeed in the NFL. Go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. So how the board fell is I had both quarterbacks, Sanders and Ward, off the board. They came off too early, had Travis Hunter and then James Pierce going ahead of Cleveland. So I'm looking at this part and I'm saying I've got several guys great in the same range here. Abdul Carter out of Penn State is who I went with, the edge rusher. Ohio State fans just saw him torch the Buckeyes last weekend for a couple of sacks, bunch of pressures. Guy's a great athlete, as we continue to see out of Penn State. And Carter is the best actual pass rusher of the several first-round guys that they've produced over the last couple of years. He's actually really good at football, whereas like Chop Robinson and Ofei, those guys were great athletes, not necessarily super refined and high upside. I think athletically they passed the test, but like on the field, I don't know that they did. Carter's not that. Carter is a great player. And I think if Cleveland were to go that direction, you're going all in on the pass rush. You're saying we don't want to just get stopgaps. Like you said, unless if one of the young guys works out here, we actually want like a legit number 2. Build this like the New York Giants did back when they were winning Super Bowls. Get 2 great defensive end prospects. Obviously, we know about Garrett. And then we have some young guys, too, that can maybe work in as rotational players. So I considered a lot. Will Johnson out of Michigan, the corner, you could easily justify him, especially with Denzel dealing with his issues that he's got. Kelvin Banks, my top offensive tackle in the class, I have go shortly after, can easily justify that one, too. So I think there's a lot of good opportunities here. Even Luther Burden, wide receiver, Tetriola McMillan, like all of those guys, you're in a great position because they're all legitimate top 10, top 5 type values. But I just look at the edge position and I say it's the most expensive. It's the most difficult to fill outside of the first round. You don't get good edge guys outside the first round. It's almost impossible. So if I look at this situation, I'm going to say I'm going to bank a little bit on my staff. I'm going to bank a little bit on my scouts to say we can help find a receiver if we need one on day 2, a quarterback. Now I had the ability here. Most mocks are first rounders, so we feel pressure to put a quarterback way higher than what we need to because we got to get the name in there. I still want people to be interested in, and I want to justify the pick. Now, though, I have round 2 and round 3. I don't have to force that pick where I can more naturally put guys where I think they should go based on their talent. So I took the, it looks weird, but like every April we get to April and quarterbacks fall. For the most part, they fall. Bo Nix went 12th? Michael Penix went 8th. I know that's still high, but it's not. And JJ McCarthy went 9th or 10th. Like if you look back a year ago, 1 through 5, they were projected to go 1 through 5. There will be some quarterbacks who do fall. Maybe it's not to the second, but maybe it's the middle or the late first. And the Browns can look at maybe moving up in that situation or move down.
Yeah, and you did go with the quarterback, but the one thing I will say, and now look, left tackle certainly makes for a great conversation, and we may revisit that more or less in 8 weeks. But again, where the Browns are at 2-7, something we all were hoping that at some point they would get the opportunity to try. If they were good, they weren't going to get the opportunity, and we're not going to take a gamble at left tackle. But DeJuan Jones is there now. We are going to get 8 more weeks of that. But here you go, rounds 2, rounds 3, and look, the round 2 pick you can talk about, but I love the first pick in round 3.
Yeah, so we start with Jackson Dart in round 2, and he's my quarterback 3 right now. It's a busy group, and it's really going to be based on your scheme. So Jackson Dart, hyper efficient, great game manager with plus traits. He's got a good arm. He's a good athlete. I think this is someone that Kevin Stefanski would look at and say, I can plug him in right now, and I can trust him. He's not going to make mistakes. He does chase enough big throws and chunk throws to be able to say that he's not just a game manager. Like when I'm saying that, I'm not saying it in the way of like, oh, great, we have like an average quarterback now. I mean, he's going to execute, and you're going to trust the scheme and the playmakers, which is what the Browns have needed. If you put that type of quarterback on the Browns this season or last season, and they stay a little bit healthier, where are the Browns at? They're probably a playoff team, right? Like that's not necessarily the highest upside, but I like the pick. It's a little bit safer. Now I have Jalen Milroe go right after that. And I think Jalen Milroe, that's a different conversation, but Milroe has struggled over the last couple of weeks. And I think that there are limitations to his game that he needs to flesh out. Honestly, I'd love to see him go back to school one more year and work on those things. But he's the big swing. So I think this is going to be a philosophical discussion we have with the Browns. Do you want to go for the big swing? I trust Kevin Stefanski. I think he's a great coach. You take that swing based on what you want this unit to look like. I think Dart makes more sense based on what it looks like today. But you could sell me on the bigger upside of like the guy with the cannon arm and 4.4 speed. And maybe he's not Lamar Jackson, but maybe he can be 90% of Lamar Jackson.
All right. Travion Henderson, round 3. Ernest Green, round 3. Look, either way, you're probably taking a tackle in his class, and the Browns currently sitting with 11 picks. Everybody who was firing up your mock drafts saying, the simulator is 9 picks. Browns are slated to have 2 compensatory picks as well. That's where the 11 come from. But go ahead, Ian.
Yeah, so I had the running back run starting very early in I think it's actually late second to third. So I love these backs. I have 3 backs going in a row: Travion Henderson, Ohio State, to the Browns; Omarion Hampton from North Carolina; Dylan Sampson, Tennessee. You can't go wrong. We talked about it. It's depending on your style and your flavor. I like Henderson because we've seen him healthy now. He's a heck of a blocker. He's a third down guy right away in the NFL. How rare is that? You're going to get a guy that just embodies the team. He embodies the position. He's added a ton of strength. He's always going to be one of the 2 fastest guys on the field in a straight line. I love that, especially with Nick Chubb. Get a little bit of thunder and lightning, and that's kind of what swayed my pick away from Hampton because I'm going to be optimistic on Chubb and say that he's going to be a pretty good contributor for the next couple of years because I just think he's that type of guy. But Henderson has improved his stock. I think from last year, he's proved to be a little bit more durable. And you talked about 10 touches a game. Can you get him 10 good touches a game and maximize those to keep him very efficient, keep him healthy? I think that's a nice little fit. But the team definitely needs a running back because we've seen what happens without Nick Chubb. The whole unit dies. So I went there. Ernest Green, nice player. Like you said, I just think you need bodies in the trenches. This offensive line is going to be going through some sort of changes over the next couple of years just due to cost, health, and age. And so you got to keep throwing assets at the position. I'm moving a little bit away philosophically from first-round offensive linemen. I think that you can build up a pretty good athlete to be a functional blocker in the NFL. Maybe not a Joe Thomas, right? But you can get someone who is solid. And I think if you can get solid out of a third round pick, it should be a reasonable ask. We're going to see it with Zach Zinser. I think he's going to be just fine too. But Ernest Green, I like the athleticism there. He's moldable. You're going to throw a tight end to his side of the field. You're going to give Travion Henderson to that side of the field anyways. So get someone who has the athleticism to grow over the next couple of years. And maybe he doesn't start year 1, but maybe he does start year 2, year 3, and you can just get average to above average. And I think that's way more than what you're normally going to get from a top 100 pick. Like that's well beyond like a third round expectation.
Yeah, and this is, look, this gives everybody eyes at, kind of where the Browns could be. Certainly players that would fit to them, but obviously also things that look like they are going to be, legit positional needs for this team. Certainly in this class, some of this certainly could be addressed, free agency, but all cards are on the table as you are sitting at 2-7 with 8 to go. There are a lot of players here on this current Browns roster who have an opportunity to maybe change some of this outlook ahead of the 2025 free agent class and certainly the NFL draft class. Ian Valentino, the 33rd NFL team, A to Z NFL as well. Ian always putting out fantastic content, and we appreciate his time here today. Want to thank everybody who make Locked On Browns their first listen every single day. Again, subscribe to the Locked On Browns YouTube channel. Show is always available. It is always free wherever you get your podcasts. I am your host, Jeff Lloyd. We appreciate you all. As always, this has been your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound. LGB on the LOB. Let's go Browns.